Henry Kissinger died at 100. He gave direction to American foreign policy for decades, and now he's been criticized all over social media. He advised 12 presidents. Henry Kissinger held significant power in American history and diplomacy, serving as National Security Advisor and Secretary of State during the Nixon administration and continuing under President Ford after Nixon's resignation. His secret negotiations with China, a groundbreaking Cold War move to isolate the Soviet Union, resulted in a historic diplomatic breakthrough. This paved the way for the complex relationship between the United States and China, two of the world's largest economies, characterized by interdependence and ongoing tensions as a new Cold War era emerged. After the news about Kissinger, somebody immediately updated Kissinger's Wikipedia page and added this sentence: "He is currently burning in hell for his war crimes." In addition to his Wikipedia page, many Twitter accounts depicted him in hell. The keyword they mostly used is war criminal. Even President Biden in his statement indicated his opposite stance with Kissinger on various issues. Why did people on social media get in line to say how happy they were about his death and the end of Kissinger era? Firstly, a Twitter thread provides an analysis of the main criticism directed at Henry Kissinger for his approval of the US bombing of Cambodia during the Vietnam War. The argument challenges the characterization of Kissinger as a war criminal or complicit in genocide. The thread outlines how geopolitical developments such as the 1968 Tet Offensive, food shortages, and reduced Chinese aid to the PAVN led to a shift in the conflict to the Mekong Delta region. In response, Nixon and Kissinger approved Operation Menu in 1969, a covert bombing campaign aimed at disrupting PAVN supply lines in Cambodia. The narrative highlights the growing anti-Vietnamese sentiment in Cambodia, resulting in the Nol coup in 1970 and subsequent military actions against PAVN forces. While acknowledging the devastating impact, the threat discourages singling out Kissinger for blame, emphasizing the complexity of the Vietnam War and critiquing early scholarship that portrayed non-American actors as passive victims. However, those who criticize Kissinger harshly outnumber those who prefer a milder approach in understanding his policies. Responding to Block's Twitter or X thread, Manali Kumar says, despite counterarguments from the NSC and the ambassador, Kissinger insisted on resorting to violent options. Some accounts blamed Kissinger for not using violence enough or efficiently. Being said that, Henry Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1973 for his role in the negotiation of a ceasefire during the Vietnam War. He shared the prize with the chief negotiator for North Vietnam. The Nobel Committee specifically mentioned their efforts in negotiating the Paris Peace Accords, which aimed to end the Vietnam War and bring peace to the region. The Paris Peace Accords were signed on January 27, 1973, and they outlined the terms for a ceasefire in Vietnam. The agreement was an attempt to bring an end to the hostilities between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, with the United States withdrawing its troops. However, the Nobel Prize awarded to Kissinger and Doe was controversial. Le-Duc Doe declined the prize, citing the fact that peace had not been fully established in Vietnam. Kissinger's receipt of the prize was also met with criticism, as many argued that he was involved in policies that escalated the conflict in Southeast Asia, such as the secret bombing of Cambodia and Laos. The decision to award Kissinger the Nobel Peace Prize remains a subject of debate and controversy even today. Here are some key decision-making processes developed by Kissinger. People generally refer to these events to criticize him. 1. Vietnam War policies. Kissinger was a key figure in shaping the United States strategy during the Vietnam War. The objective was to root out the pro-communist Viet Cong forces that were operating from bases across the border in Cambodia, but the bombings were indiscriminate. Mr. Kissinger told the military to strike anything that flies or anything that moves. At least 50,000 civilians were killed. Bombing of Cambodia and Laos. Kissinger's involvement in the secret bombing campaigns in Cambodia and Laos during the Vietnam War has been widely criticized. He has been accused of breaking international law by authorizing the secret carpet bombing of Cambodia in 1969-70 and undeclared war on an ostensibly neutral nation. The bombings, conducted without the knowledge or approval of Congress, targeted areas believed to be havens for North Vietnamese forces. The extent of civilian casualties and the long-term impact on the affected countries have been subjects of controversy. 3. Chilean coup. Kissinger played a role in U.S. intervention in Chile, supporting the overthrow of President Salvador Allende in 1973. He was the architect of the Nixon administration's efforts to topple Chile's democratically elected socialist President Salvador Allende. 4. East Timor invasion. Kissinger's support for Indonesia's invasion of East Timor in 1975 is another source of criticism. The invasion resulted in widespread human rights abuses, including mass killings and displacements. The US was seen as providing diplomatic support to Indonesia despite knowledge of the atrocities committed by Indonesian forces in East Timor. 5. Generally, realpolitik and amorality. Kissinger's approach to foreign policy, often characterized as realpolitik, prioritizes national interests and geopolitical considerations over moral or ethical concerns. Critics argue that this approach led to support for authoritarian regimes and human rights abuses if it served strategic goals. The perception of Kissinger as amoral, focusing solely on power dynamics, has been a point of contention. It's important to recognize that views on Kissinger are diverse and opinions on his legacy vary widely based on one's perspective on the specific policies and actions mentioned above. The controversies surrounding his tenure in government continue to shape debates about U.S. foreign policy and international relations. In conclusion, the death of Henry Kissinger at the age of 100 has